Hello students, this is KMUS Spirit Class Lesson 11. Alright, announcements. This is Lesson 11. So we're going to have 15 total lessons in the class, right? So we're almost done. After this video, there's only going to be 4 more. So I don't know how you feel, but it feels good, right? To almost be done with the semester. So let's try to finish well, right? Um, I talked a little bit about the final assignment last one of the last videos. Uh, just want to remind you guys. I'll tell you more about it later, but it's going to be hard to finish the final assignment if you don't have our class book. So if you don't have that book, you're gonna have to find some way to get it. I don't know, maybe you can borrow it from your friend or get it from the library, but you're really gonna need that our classes book, especially in English, to do the final assignment. So I hope you can find a copy of that book. Um, as far as how the class is going, guys, I told you before I don't really like the style where I just read the book. I assume that's going to be really boring for you guys, but um, as you can see here, we need to get to the book. Like we just have to finish it basically. So uh, I was really trying to think. I don't know what the best way to do it is. I think I'm just gonna put up like pages using this PowerPoint, but I am gonna have to just read from the book sometimes. Um, I will mix in some other lessons like about writing because our final assignment is going to be about writing. But again, I hope it's not too boring. I really apologize. I want to make this class interesting for you guys and to not make it really boring because obviously just listening to me read the book is going to be really boring. Um, I hope I hope it at least improves your listening skills, and I hope that if you have the book, you can follow along at least a little bit. But again, I don't really know what the best way to do it would be, and I think just like I said, in order we kind of just have to get to the book a little bit quickly. So even though it's boring, uh, I hope it's not too bad for you. Okay. All right. I just want to make one final comment about the midterm presentations. I just want to say I was really impressed by the hard work that you guys did, and thank you for your effort. Um, it was really awesome. Like I learned a lot by watching your videos. I learned so many things about all the missionaries, and I was just very moved. So everybody did a really good job, and it's so hard to grade when everybody does a good job. It's like I want to just give everybody A plus, but you know, as far as grading goes, uh, because we use Sangde Pyonga, I always for big assignments I always just have to do ranking, so I just have to kind of think, you know, and I'll tell you more about before the class ends. At the very end, I'll tell you like really detailed about how my grading system works, but just in general, again, because we use Sangde Pyonga, relative grading, the way grading works is I have to make a ranking in the class, so I have to kind of think like who are the top students, who are the students who are not the top, kind of at the bottom. And in a class like this, when everybody's trying so hard and doing such a great job, it's like it drives me crazy to try to identify which students are not the best ones because everybody's so wonderful. But anyway, like I said, I'll tell you more about grading before the class ends. I don't want to waste a lot of time talking about it. Okay, chapter 5. This is kind of a short chapter. With the other chapters, it's taken me 2 lessons to finish one chapter, but this one's really short, and I think I'm gonna easily finish the whole the whole chapter just in one lesson. Um, so this is an interesting chapter because it gives us some background about some of the buildings on our campus, which is kind of cool. So again, this chapter is all about people who have donated money or time or effort to our school to make it a better place. Um, just as an example of this, my department, it's called Tabula Rasa. We teach the freshman English, communication English. That's like our main thing that we teach. And our office is in Shadak Hall. And like before I taught this class, I had no idea who Shadak was. But now, after reading the chapter, I I know who he is, and you will too if you didn't read already. So let's get to it. There are two people, well, four, I guess, like two couples, two married couples that this chapter focuses on. So Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck and Dr. Jung Jae-ho and Mrs. Park Myung-gyo. Uh, so anyway, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna be reading from these pages and stopping for a second to make comments. And again, I hope you can follow along if you have the book. And let's get started, okay? So I'm going to page 164. So it's going to start off by telling us about, the early life of Mr. Shattuck, and then we're going to learn who he is, okay? So several buildings on Daemyeon campus and Sungso campus bear the name Shattuck. I didn't even know there were several. I thought there was only the Shattuck Hall, which is where, like I said, my office was. I don't know what the other Shattuck buildings are, but I'm going to be looking for them when I walk around campus next time. The reason being, Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck's several donations to university development funds when KMUS University was confronted with financial difficulties in its early period. So obviously the school is doing well now, but when it first started, there were times when it needed money, especially during the early periods, right after the Korean War. Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck from Neenah, Wisconsin, freely donated 100,000 US dollars, provided all the construction costs for the home nursing building, and bequeathed $50,000 in 1975 among other gifts. Bequeath means give, so like they gave as a gift. Lot of money. $100,000 in today's money is not that much, but obviously back then it was a much bigger amount of money, right? Sidney F. Shattuck, who was born in 1878 and died in 1976, was born in Wisconsin, and was the eldest child of Franklin Shattuck, who was one of the founders of the global paper company Kimberly-Clark. So his father was, I guess, a very wealthy man because he owned a paper company. I've never heard of Kimberly-Clark, but if you owned a company back then, you might be really rich, especially if it was a global company. Okay, he graduated from Yale University in June 1899. He married Ruth Harwood in December of 1908 and had 2 sons and 2 daughters. So Yale University, right? Ivy League school, one of the best universities in America. Obviously, a very intelligent man and from a wealthy family. He thoroughly educated his children on the importance of saving, sharing, and giving. As mentioned in Chapter 2, Shattuck taught his children once they were 7 years old to use their weekly allowance like this. You should keep 2 cents for saving. You should keep 3 cents for giving, and the remainder is for spending. So if you don't understand what he's trying to say is, for his children, he tried to teach them that of your money, let's say like all the money you have, 20% you should save. So save 20% of your money and donate 30% of your money, and then you get to keep the rest. So 50% of your money is not being just spent freely. It's either being saved or given as donation. So he really had a mind to donate and help others. So very generous man, obviously. And he lived and he taught his children to live faithfully according to the Bible's teaching. So all of his core beliefs came from the Bible, and he tried to live his life in accordance to the Bible's teaching. Okay. So let's keep going. We're going to learn now about how he used the teachings of the Bible to set up a system in his company. So let's take a look. After graduating from university, Sidney Shattuck joined Kimberly-Clark Company in January of 1900. So remember that that's his father's company. Like we said, it was a very big and prosperous global company, even back at that time. He worked at the world-class paper manufacturers for 45 years as vice president in charge of industry. As an industrial manager, Shattuck exerted a pioneering effort in improving staff welfare. He considered establishing a system to help staff faced with unexpected accidents, and he made that one of his goals. So even though he was the vice president of his father's company, obviously, like we said, very wealthy man, instead of just focusing on profit and making money, he decided to focus on the workers and making their lives better and making sure that they have insurance in case they get injured. So obviously, he wasn't a man who just thought about profit and making money. He thought about helping others. Okay, so he has got a good heart. Shattuck developed many welfare programs, which were very progressive for the times. He conducted various welfare measures, including the foundation of Kimberly-Clark Mutual Aid, the equivalent of a current labor union, and collective insurance schemes. So, especially at this time, I don't know how much you guys know about U.S. history. Maybe not too much, right? But especially at this time, the early 1900s. Companies were very bad to their workers. They did not treat them well. Like a lot of times, if you died at work, right, because the company made a mistake, like the machine was not good, nothing would really happen. They would not have to give your family money or anything like that. Or let's say like you were working in a company and the machine, tore off your arm and you were disabled. Maybe they'll give you a little bit of money, but especially at this time, the companies were very they didn't care about people's rights or anything like that. It was a very hard time to be a worker. But it seemed like even though in that environment, Mr. Shattuck wanted to help workers and help people. So again, very great man, and really try to live according to the Bible's teaching. So pretty amazing. Okay, let's keep going. Yes, so he made welfare. He let them together into a union. Uh, and with the massive scale of industrial production at Kimberly-Clark, there was always a possibility of staff being injured by the machinery. Out of his deep sympathy, Shattuck invented various safety measures. He also made an effort to correct managers' treatment of workers as a disposable resource. Various safety measures and the mutual aid system developed by Shattuck boosted workers' morale, leading to bigger profits. Such an outstanding example of industrial relations drew public attention and led the U.S. government to establish the National Industrial Safety Board, which oversees workers' industrial accident prevention and welfare promotion. All right, so this is interesting. You know, these are things that even I did not know. It sounds like he was, even in American history, a very important figure as far as workers' rights are concerned. So, really a pioneer as far as workers' rights. Uh, it's interesting to think about it, that his impact on Korea was not just our university. Um, his work on his efforts in workers' rights really affected workers all over the world because a lot of nations were looked to the U.S. as an example of how does the U.S. treat their workers, and it affected, it maybe had an effect on their laws as well. So, this man had an effect on many dimensions in the world, not just our school. Okay, he had a bigger impact than just our school. Okay, let's keep going. Um, he had a lifelong charity service. So it says, emphasizing human dignity in industry, Shattuck demonstrated his abilities in civil service. Sorry, guys, and we are on page 166 right now, just so you know, at the bottom. Shattuck demonstrated his abilities in civil service. As a member of the Citizen Welfare Committee of Neenah, Wisconsin, he built a sports ground at his own expense and enlarged numerous parks. In recognition of the contributions, the city of Neenah named the gymnasium, swimming pool, and entertainment parks after him. In addition, he also served for 50 years as a member of the Board of Trustees at Carroll, Waukesha, Wisconsin, and also served as a member of the Board of Trustees for McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago. All right, so again, a great man, did many things in the state of Wisconsin. And he's remembered and respected there because many parks and buildings have his name even in America. So, again, great man. Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck's service at various universities amounts to 115 years. In order to recognize their outstanding contributions, Oshkosh College conferred him with an honorary achievement award in May 1972. So, not just in Korea, he's also famous in America as well. I didn't know that. I've never heard of him, like I said, before this class. Let's see. Shattuck devoted himself in his charity work to Neha Menasha Boys and Girls Brigade. Shattuck took over the leadership of the Boys Brigade in 1900 from the Presbyterian minister. I'm going to skip some of this. All right, I'm skipping ahead, and I'm going to page 167 at the bottom. Now we're talking about our school, like what did he do for our school? So, many things he did in America. Now let's focus on our school. So, Mr. and Mrs. Adams, who were the founders of KMUS University, right? Edward Adams, knew Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck well before establishing KMUS University. Because Ann Dua, and that's Edward Adams. Edward Adams' mother was also from Neenah, Wisconsin. Wow. So, they shared that hometown. Edward Adams began to find supporters for his project to establish a university in Daegu after the Korean War in 1953. When Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck were asked for help, they freely donated money without any conditions. So, I'm guessing what happened here was, you know, Edward Adams' mother, who was from that hometown, uh, maybe let him know about that. But I don't know if you remember, his mother died in an early age, though, right? So that's a little strange. I don't know how that connection was made. I almost feel like the book might be making a mistake because I don't know if you remember, but we learned that Edward Adams, his mother died at a very early age. He was only like, I don't know, 10 years old or 8 years old when his mother died. I don't know how his mother would have introduced him because she was dead. I think the book might be talking about his wife. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes this book makes some mistakes, but I don't want to criticize the book too much. I'm on page 168, and we're almost done talking about Shattuck, but let's finish up. In the early 1960s, KMUS University was struggling to find money for the expenses of land acquisition, construction, and facility expansion. In order to solve this financial hardship, the founder, Edward Adams, and the third rector, Dr. Shin Tae-shik, began the fundraising activities in February 1962 that led to the collection of 200,000 US dollars. At this time, Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck donated 100,000 US dollars, an enormous sum for the university at the time. For example, the overall construction cost for a dormitory accommodating 80 female students accounted to only 35,000 US dollars. That's amazing. So, wow. A huge amount of money. So $100,000 in today's money is, 1억, right? 1억. That's not that much, right? But according to this, you could make a dormitory building that could fit 80 women, and that was only $35,000. So that's $35,000, like in today's money, is about like 4천 만 won. So again, like that's not that much, but at that time it was a huge amount of money, and he, like I said, gave $100,000. So wow, really, really a lot of money. Okay. Okay. Also, many other people donated as well. Blah blah blah. We'll skip that. He donated money for a dormitory and helped build the music hall. He gave another 25,000 for an administration office, which is I think my office that I work in now. Sorry, I don't work there, but that's where my department's office is. And he gave another 20,000 for just developing the campus, making it more beautiful, and he gave $5,000 for book purchases. So he did a lot, gave a lot of money. In 1967, Mrs. Susan Comstock and Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck attended the 13th anniversary of the University Foundation and participated in the unveiling ceremony of Edward Adams' statue. At this event, Mrs. Susan Comstock donated a chime bell and a Steinway piano to the students at the College of Music. Okay. We're almost done here. We're on the last page of talking about him, and the part one is almost finished. So I'm just going to finish this page, and then I'll stop the video, and then I'll continue in part two. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, Shattuck was recruited to take over the National Industry Bank in Neenah. Most of the banks in the U.S. were experiencing financial difficulties and shut down. And this particular bank was no exception. Though he said, "I am not a banker," he took over the bank for the sake of the community. After that, without shutting its door, the bank prospered under stable management, providing a pillar of economic support to help the community. In addition to Shattuck's services and contributions, Neenah Community High School named blah 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 Shattuck High School. Okay, Mr. Shattuck was faithful to sharing and giving throughout his life. He once humbly said, with respect to his contributions, "I am not a founder of the university, but only one helper for the university." He was generous in giving and passed away on March 4th, 1976, at the age of 97. Wow. In order to commemorate the love Mr. and Mrs. Shattuck held for KMUS University and its people, the university named buildings on both Daemeung and Sungso campuses after the Shattuck family name. Okay, I'm going to stop part 1 here and continue on in part 2. See you next.